I'm James Patrick, the director of Big Picture.Watch. A big component of my work has been to document the creation of a digital control grid. That is, a sort of rise of authoritarianism through digital technology and surveillance pushed through tech companies and government. Biophysical surveillance, the rise of programmable money, and all fueled by AI-driven data centers to process all this information to manage us. A big part of this story in the last year has been the erection of over 80,000 flock cameras around the country, in urban and rural areas alike. They're basically license plate readers that track everywhere you go and store it. This is a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. On the state and county level, we need to pass laws to reaffirm the Fourth Amendment to disallow the utilization of this technology, which is clearly unconstitutional. I caught up with Benn from Chicago, who's a security expert who's documented over 70 vulnerabilities with these cameras. Listen to what he has to say and help be a part of the effort to block the deployment of this dangerous and unconstitutional technology.
I'm Benn. I'm not sure how you would label me at this point. A lot of people call me a security researcher. Some people call me a hacker. I've been a professional musician for 25 years, and I have a popular YouTube channel that covers kind of all things tech, maybe brushes on anarchism, but that's like a dirty word, right? So I usually don't introduce myself that way because when people think of anarchism, they think of overturned cars and fire and stuff when I'm just thinking of like playing the guitar alone in the yard with my phone turned off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Flock cameras are they're initially ALPRs, which means automatic license plate reader, and they would be put up on the side of the road somewhere. They capture your license plate. They have AI inside the camera that essentially finds a rectangle and then finds the text on the rectangle, which is your license plate, and then stores that supposedly temporarily, and then uploads it with a cellular modem to the police. And then the police have like 30 days of retention usually in most places. And if they want to find out where your car's been over the last 30 days, they can just type in your license plate or your name or whatever and combine it with your criminal record and essentially track you wherever the cameras have been present. So where I live, for example, I can't go anywhere without being tracked, literally. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. If I go to the grocery store, to Chick-fil-A, into the city, when I drive out of town here, I'm being tracked every step of the way. And now the cameras have evolved a bit. They have ones that zoom in on people. They have ones that they have all types of recognition. Like you could type in, man in red shirt with brown shoes. It'll show you every single person who was wearing that in the city over the last 30 days. And then you have Flock Nova, which compares that with open source intelligence data, which is like your Strava bike rides, the things you've read that are on your Goodreads, and so on.
Really? So it's pretty encompassing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's clearly a Fourth Amendment violation. Like, everybody has the right to privacy. The fact that police can access this without a warrant, I mean, while it's very convenient for police in a lot of situations, the efficacy of if it actually reduces crime, that nobody's been able to figure that out yet. And I think what it ultimately is a waste of money that is ultimately going to be ruled as a Fourth Amendment violation whenever the Supreme Court hears it. The most recent case that comes to mind is Carpenter v. United States, where Carpenter was tracked via cell phone tower for more than one cell phone tower. And the Supreme Court said, okay, if you don't have a warrant, you can't track a person past one cell phone tower, and you can't find out where they're going, because that violates their liberty to practice religion, their sex life, all the things that you want private, that can infringe on that. And so that's the most recent ruling that, when looking at that ruling and reading it, you say, how can these flock cameras exist? But at the state level, I've communicated with a lot of attorneys who are working on the legislature for the state levels as well. So I do think that we will have a state in the next few years, at least one state in the next few years, that just bans these outright. And depending on who's president when that happens, the federal government may go into war with them over it. We need states, counties, cities, we need everybody to vote against these. Mm-hmm. And I think what I'm doing here is, after going to so many city council meetings where hundreds of people show up, and every single one of them is saying no to this. We don't want it. We don't want our tax dollars spent on it. the city council will end up voting for more cameras or for a new contract or whatever it is. And so at this point, I've just stopped attending the city council meetings, and it's like, well, you know what? There's a lot of politicians who are running for office this year who are very anti this type of surveillance, and let's use my platform to give them a boost. Let people know, why they feel the way they feel, and then maybe next year and the year after that, politicians will see a pro-surveillance stance as one that isn't politically sustainable, whether they believe it or not. So John Gaines, Joshua Michael, and myself, we were basically a self-made volunteer team of security researchers who really dug deep into flock safety, all in different areas. And all in all, we found close to 80 different vulnerabilities. A lot of those are published with MITRE, which is who publishes security vulnerabilities for the Department of Homeland Security. So these definitely aren't frivolous. They're actually published. They're very real. And in doing so, I've been trying to spread the message of how easy it would be for a black hat hacker to find the location data of every single person in a city due to some of these vulnerabilities having hard-coded credentials and things like that. But more so, I understand that not everybody's going to understand what I'm talking about when I talk about the technical aspects of it. So what I've been doing is when I've been attending city council meetings, I'll wait for that. When I've been attending city council meetings, all I've been asking for is for an independent process that reviews or rates or security vendors. The same way where if you open up a Chick-fil-A or some type of restaurant, sorry, I don't want these, you might get copyrighted from this. I could start that over. All I've been asking city councils to do is to set up an independent review board that can grade or certify a surveillance vendor. The same way where if you want to open up a barbershop, you have to have a license to do it. Somebody comes by to make sure that it's clean, that nobody's going to catch a disease, that there's not blood on the floor or something like that. Same thing if you open a cafe or a restaurant, somebody comes by to make sure it's clean. And that's usually in most cities, that's paid for with your license fees. I don't understand why we're not doing that to surveillance vendors. That's tremendously more dangerous when you consider everybody's data, not only when you think about how it could be breached and used by other companies to invade their privacy and things like that, but also just for the safety. Like in some of the breaches, not breaches, but some of the security vulnerabilities we found, I was able to see a particular woman going jogging on a forest trail every morning at 7 a.m. I was able to look at a Lowe's parking lot around Christmas and see what everybody was loading into their truck, and then cross-reference their license plate to find out where they live. And so, guess what? I'd have all these new things in this garage before Christmas if I were a burglar. All these things are very real security vulnerabilities that I don't think anybody wants in their city. Flock deletes it after 31 days from what I've found. It's on the system for 31 days. Flock claims it's 30. I don't really think that one day makes much of a difference because police departments, if they want to save data, they can. If police departments are actively interested in someone, whether that be a criminal or whether it be a police officer's ex-wife or whatever it is, they can save that as long as they want because, as Flock would say, it's their data, it's not Flock's data. In one way, I think that if the expansion of these was so rapid during like Obama's administration or during Biden's, maybe we would have had a lot of pushback with Biden's administration because COVID was still fresh on everyone's mind, and somewhere you would have people getting tickets through Flock for violating quarantine and leaving their house or something like that, or not wearing a mask, on a woods trail or something. But I think I actually tried to disconnect things from that because my job as a researcher is to not connect Trump's behavior, which I hate. I very much dislike Trump. I very much dislike everything that's going on the right now. But I actually try to disconnect that a little bit from the security research because my security research needs to be unbiased for it to be effective. That being said, I think that the dangers, what I really like about this issue is I run into conservative and liberal and libertarian people who all feel exactly the same about it, where there are a lot of people who still remember COVID lockdowns and they thought that was a little bit overreaching, and they combine that with surveillance like this and they go, oh yeah, never, I will not allow that. So I think it's interesting because I'll make a video and I'll make a joke about ICE or something in that video, and you'll read comments of people who were very into the video except they didn't like the joke about ICE. And it's like, okay, so I'm drawing from this crowd that never watched my content until they start seeing these cameras around and searching them, and then they were recommended that. That means a lot to me, and I think that actually having any sort of issue that isn't locked into one partisan side it is huge to me right now, because I've always been like a left-leaning libertarian, and so seeing these two sides come together on one issue, it makes me really excited for that. So I almost don't even, like, of course Trump's going to misuse this if he has the option to. Of course the FBI is like that's just what happens when you have technology like this, but I hope that we don't actually, I hope that both sides will come together to make sure that that doesn't happen, or to at least try and prevent it from happening. My name is Ben Jordan, with 2 N's on Ben. You can search me on Google. You'll probably find my YouTube channel and other social media sites, stuff like that. And my music is released as The Flashbulb. And yeah, generally, I'm always seemingly in the news somewhere, so you'll find me in some weird way.
And what do you do, or what do you do?
I mean, technically, if I were to figure out what made me the most money, it would be a researcher or scientist.
Okay.
An independent researcher and scientist. So I essentially find things to be obsessed with, get obsessed with them, collect data, write about that data, report on it with YouTube, which usually funds the research to begin with, and then sometimes it's used elsewhere, sometimes it's not.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, huh?
Sure. Thank you.